This is why I love Bleach. The ending of the Arrancar arc shows me why Bleach has such the impact on me that it has. The fact that by the end of this storyline where I have grown to go beyond despise a character like Aizen to feeling a bit of sadness for him by the end of it, to have a character like Gin who will have me in tears for a very long time. This character said so little and was so confusing, but had one of the biggest impacts on me. Ichigo will always hit me in my heart in a way that a lot of characters cannot. Yeah, I left this really emotional and confused by my emotions, but also so inspired and happy. I've had such a up and down with this arc, which is something else. The last time I talked to you all about Bleach, I was going from the manga to the anime. Then I went back to the manga after reading some of your comments, and wonderful decision. We're going to be talking about chapters 367 through 423, all very wonderful chapters. There's also over 40 plus characters in this storyline, which is insane. So forgive me in advance for my pronunciation of the names. Anyway, let's get into the actual arc, the remainder of the Arrancar arc. So the first section of all of this is the last of the Espadas fighting our now larger team, because we have the Gote 13 and the Visor fighting with us. This section really hit me hard because the Espada, they are humanized in this, and not only because we get more insight on their thoughts and how they're feeling, but the betrayal that they experience through Aizen, seeing them have to process their last moments and what they actually wanted and why they were doing what they were doing, and some of them who were just truly loyal to him. And at the same time, we have to destroy them because they are on the other side, and we can't have that happening. But the way everything about them was revealed to us was not what I was expecting, and it was executed really well. And on top of that, we have our Gote 13 trying to build that trust with the Visor, and at the very least establish some kind of trust within the fights. One of the first fights we see in this part is Hachigen versus Baragon. I'm already stressing about having to say all these names. This fight was one of my favorites. Hachi is what I'm going to call him. I think they call him Hachi at times, but he did such a great job of thinking on his feet. I especially loved how he used Baragon's words against him. Baragon said that nobody could stand up to his power, and so Hachi using that power, using his arm to like take in that power and shoot it at him, and since nobody could take it, neither could Baragon. I thought that was brilliant. I think too, having a character like Hachi, who we've seen to be a nice, kind character, he's always had a nice presence, but he wasn't a loud character, right? He wasn't Hiyori. He wasn't like the lead, like Shinji. So to be able to have him take out this huge character, the king of Ueko Mundo, I thought that was such a cool choice, and to show all the different capabilities that all of these characters have and the potential, and just how useful everybody is. That's something else I appreciate about Bleach. We have so many characters, and while that can kind of drive me insane, every character is shown as useful. And then we get to see Baragon. Yes, he's terrible. Like, there's something about him that I find redeeming. I think his ability to age people is cool just for the fact that it's cool, but how he utilizes it isn't my favorite. But to see that Aizen just kind of came up and took over his life, and in his final moments, he was thinking about how he said he was going to get Aizen back. So he had no intention of staying here to fight for Aizen. He wanted to go against him. Now, this is, two bad apples. I don't feel for him. I don't like the character, but I like that revelation that we got. I also thought Hachi's interaction with Soi Fong was so good. He was so patient with her, and obviously she's going to have her hesitation to fight with him, and I was kind of like, girl, this is not the time, but I also get it. But to see her hesitate was realistic. And also the deal that he makes with her, I think he's going to seal Kisuke. He agreed to seal Kisuke for a month or something like that. I thought that was interesting for him to agree to that so calmly, and you just feel like you can trust him, and therefore they got to work together together and use their teamwork to attack Baragon. I just thought that was such a good pairing of two characters with very opposite personalities. I love Hachi. He's so good. And Soi Fong is also awesome, obviously. The fight with Stark and Love and the other visor, it was quicker than a lot of fights, but Stark, the way you could tell he felt something with Baragon dying and knowing that Aizen didn't give any kind of emotional response or even just address it at all was so telling, and it was telling to him. What we see with Stark is that he was a part of this because he wanted to have people, friends. He wanted to be around people as strong as he was. And not just strong for the sake of having a team, a strong team. It was because they needed people who could survive around them. Before, their soul was divided because they were tired of being lonely. They couldn't be around anybody because everybody around them died. What a tragedy. And so they finally had people that could at least exist by them, no matter what the consequences of dealing with somebody like Aizen. They weren't alone. And this is one of the most heartbreaking things I have seen, to see him watch the people he did this for fall. And then watching, I think, his leader, even though he thanks him, but watching his leader not care. Oh, I felt so much for Stark, and he's incredible. And I do like when he kind of gets his resolve back when Lily Net, I don't know how to say her name, but whenever she kind of tells him to get it together and his wolves come out, and it's really cool. But in the end, I mean, we see him say that he is jealous of the weak. It hurt. It hurt that he just felt so alone that he was willing to follow this psychopath. But at the very end, I get it, because he says that Aizen helped him from not being alone. As twisted as this is, it's like he's with the wrong side, in my opinion. You know, they've done a lot of terrible things. Aizen is showing himself not to be the best leader, but it did give Stark happiness. And then ending his time with the story, I'm assuming he's gone for good, but him reflecting on when he first met Lilynette, and she's like, what are we going to do next? And he's like, I'm not sure, but we're going to do it together. It does make me at least realize that people do sometimes get involved with groups and people, not because they're just dying to go be a killing machine or do bad things, but because they don't want to be alone. I just thought that message was very powerful, and not saying that you have to agree with what he chose to do, but just that understanding is important. Do not get me started on the tier Haribel, Espada, and Aizen. That one infuriates me. She is fighting for this man. In the process of fighting, Aizen sees that they're losing, or that he doesn't have much use for them because all his top Espadas are dying. And as she's fighting, instead of at least letting the fight end out, he kills her. And the look on her face, the look on everybody's faces, our team. And she even tries to stab him, and it's not the real him. And he continues to end her life, I believe. I guess it's ended. And that's something about Aizen that I just won't understand. Even though at the very end of it, I have my feelings about him that make me a little sad. But when I go back and have to think about this, to be able to just cut them down like that, cut her down like that, be the one to kill her, my brain cannot think that he's that ruthless, but perhaps he is. But I felt so bad for that character. That was when I was like, oh, this is going to be a very difficult battle to get through. We do have a moment where Aizen really injures Hiyori. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was really irritated with her because he's taunting them. He's trying to get under their skin, and you have Shinji saying, calm down, don't let him get to you. And you can tell that she's on edge. And then when Aizen says, what does it matter? You all died a long time ago anyway. That does it for her. And I was upset because she's such a strong character. And I was like, we need you. And then I wanted her to protect herself. And then she puts herself in this position. But also, who would not be furious at Aizen in this moment? And then he's right there in front of you. I'm sure it's very hard to contain yourself after everything they've been through, after everything she's been through and what she's been fighting for and training for. So I have a lot more understanding of her character for her character when I got to sit down and think about it. And then seeing the effect it had on Shinji, just seeing how much he cares for his group, for her. But Shinji is so vulnerable in this moment because he looks and Hachi can't help because he's lost his arm, the arm he used to take down Baragon. He needs Ichigo in the team and him being vulnerable enough to say it out loud. And then we see Ichigo, this shot of him in Ueko Mundo, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's coming, it's coming. It's really cool, really cool. Obviously a difficult moment, but you can tell like great things are about to happen in the midst of a lot of bad things. Now, this next portion, we go back to Ichigo and Ueko Mundo. It's cool because Ichigo in these moments, he's so much stronger, but at the same time, this is the beginning of us seeing Ichigo really struggle with the fear of his holification and his transformations. And I think him hurting Oryu and how far he went with Ukiura really did a number on him. And in general, the idea of him losing control of himself in the midst of such a crazy battle has done something to him. And I like that this is not something that's just tackled for a second and then Ichigo is amazing. I like that we really go through that internal struggle that he's having. But before that, it is great to see his confidence with Yami when they're first fighting, when Ichigo brings him away from his friend and Yami thinks that it's because of whatever stupid stuff Yami thinks, and he's like, no, I don't want you hurting them. Let's go. But they fight and Ichigo can't get his holification to work the way that it needs to work. And so there we see that there's something going on with him. But before we really dive into that, Kenpachi and Byakuya show up, and there is nothing like a Bleach character popping up to fight. There is no story that has as cool of an appearance as when you see these characters come through. But to see those two, I really do wish they could have been a part of the Aizen fight. I mean, we would have needed Ichigo regardless, it looks like, so it's fine, but I just wanted to see more of them. But Kenpachi is hilarious, and seeing him get hit by Yami at one point and then being like, is that all you got? And then him and Byakuya kind of going at it, trying to say who's better and who can take him down. And then Mayuri pops up. He is a psychotic man, but I love how brilliant he is. And another one who I would have loved to see be in it and confront Aizen because he's so witty and smart and strong. But he creates the little entrance so Ichigo can go back. But that whole section was lovely, and Yami revealed that he's actually the strongest Espada, and I thought that was excellent. I knew he was such a angry, strong character who would never stop. I didn't know we were going to get the reveal that he was number 0 and that he had that ability. I also really enjoy that in this section, Ichigo and Byakuya having their conversations about them being the captains and not leading Ichigo there, and they don't need his help, but also saying that Ichigo has his role, go do it, showing that yes, Ichigo is so strong and has all this ability, but they are true leaders, and Ichigo is too, but he has so much to learn. So to see Byakuya give that speech in a way was so comforting, and I think it helped Ichigo. Ichigo, I think, can feel like it's all on his shoulders, and it kind of is, but at the same time, everybody is aware that he is this young kid who's still learning. And even though they're hard on him and try to push him and tell him to snap out of it and get it together, they do those things to him. But it's also, in my opinion, a way to let him know that they're all there for him and they're still his leaders. Even though he has this, he's the key ingredient, they're still the chefs, they're still the head chefs, they're still, making sure the meal gets done. I do like how Retsu Unohana, I'm probably butchering these names, but I do like how this character reveals to us that Ichigo is the only one who is not affected by Aizen's hypnosis, and Ichigo has to make sure, and that's how Ichigo can help them win, because Ichigo still has that upper hand on Aizen. And in general, I like a lot of these characters who, yes, we've dealt with them, but we didn't fully get to deal with them, in a lot of ways. They kind of get to shine in these moments. And this character doesn't necessarily have any big moments, but that's a big reveal through her character. And she also helps heal characters. And I don't know, I like the way everybody was utilized, even though it was a ton of names and people to keep up with. I thought that was great. And now we are about to have one of the most heartfelt, confusing, it makes me angry, and that's Tozen versus Komamura. So we have Shinji tell Hachi to watch over Hiyori, and he's about to fight Aizen, which you think that's going to be the big one. And it is, but this Tozen one, it hits a little different. And Hisagi, we can't forget Hisagi in this as well. I was livid when we first started this fight because Tozen in general, I don't know what it was, but he just would make me so mad. I guess because it seemed like he was so angry about his friend dying and he wanted to, he joined the other side and that all led to this. And it seemed like he was doing the opposite of what his friend fought for, from what I understood. And of course, now we get more information that the person who killed his friend wasn't given the ultimate punishment. And Tozen already wasn't necessarily on board with fighting with this group, the Gote 13, and he was more so doing it for his friend. So seeing them not even put the utmost punishment to this person who caused him so much pain and took the life of somebody he truly cared about was a lot. But even then, I was still very angry at Tozen. And honestly, Komamura not only changed Tozen, but changed me and really helped me have a lot more tenderness and understanding to Tozen. The fight in and of itself was a good fight. We have Komamura trying to talk reason with Tozen while Tozen is so angry, right? And he has these transformations and he turns into, he's completely not even himself at one point and he can see. And what's interesting is at one point, Hisagi says that even though Tozen can see, he did better essentially when he was blind because now, yes, he has his vision, but it's just pure rage. It's such a twisted thing that you feel so happy that he can see. And at the same time, he's using it for such destructive measures. And at one point, Tozen is winning and it looks like he's going to take out Komamura. And when we think he's going to die, Hisagi ends up stabbing him. Way to go, Hisagi, like giving his character this moment. But it's hard at the same time because he cared about Tozen. He looked up to Tozen and now he has to take him out. And it's tragic because it looks like as he's fading away, as he's dying, he sees his friend, but he doesn't see her. And it's kind of like Baragon, like you are your own demise in a sense. You did all this stuff to stop all this stuff and then cause the same stuff to happen to you. And he's telling himself it wasn't supposed to happen like this. And he's now even in more darkness and can't see even more. But you see how much his anger took over his life. And then you have Komamura really get to me. He basically tells Tozen, look, I'm not asking you to forgive, to stop being upset, but I don't want you to completely lose yourself to these angry emotions because then I would lose you. And if I were to lose you, the way you have a hole in your heart over the loss of your friend, I would have a hole in my heart over the loss of you. Oh my gosh. Beautiful. Just what Tozen needed. And Tozen is just moved by it and thanks him. In that moment, it's hard because I think he really sees that he didn't have to have all that anger and there were people trying to help him and were on his side, that were not Aizen. And then Tozen wants to see more of Hisagi's face because he can still see and he's trying to see everything that he can in his face. And then Aizen finishes off Tozen. And what was a beautiful moment ends quickly when it looks like Tozen's body just blows up. And my understanding is that Aizen did it, I believe, because Komamura screams Aizen's name and I can't even keep saying livid. I'm just like, what? You couldn't even let him have that moment? I am so livid and I want to throw the freaking iPad until we see that Ichigo pops up. And that's the only reason I kept going. We move on for now and it gets intense. And in the midst of the Tozen fight, we have the Shinji versus Aizen fight. I'm really surprised how much the Tozen one captivated my interest more, because I love Shinji and obviously Shinji and Aizen fighting is gonna be great, but it went by faster than I thought, but it was good. It was good knowing that Shinji's, I don't know, I get confused about all of this, but he has a similar ability to Aizen in the sense of his senses or something like that, and he can go do everything backwards in these optical illusions and up and down, and he tricks Aizen at some points, but Aizen catches on so fast. He's good. He's really good, but Shinji is holding his own. Aizen does end up kind of outsmarting it and saying that nobody's stronger than me. He just gets a little annoying after a while. But their fight was good and getting to see Shinji do his thing. But the Tozen one, man, that was something. Now that Ichigo's here, we get to the real fight with Aizen. And it's pretty much everybody against Aizen outside of Gin, who is, for the most part, watching and overseeing. And I can't even talk about Gin. It's just, but he's being Gin throughout all of this. It's time to see who is going to come out the victor. And yes, we have all these people with us, and it's awesome seeing them stand together. But like Ichigo says, they are beat up. They've been at it. But they basically put up a wall for Ichigo. And they're like, look, I think Komomura tells him, we know that you aren't affected yet by the hypnosis of Aizen and all of that. So we've got your back. We know what you have to do. We know what we have to do. So we got you. We're going to protect you until it's time for you to do your thing. And seeing them all standing there strong and ready to fight is so encouraging. And so the Gote 13 attack like Hitsugaya, who I love that character so much, but he is angry like Hiyori on the visor side. Which is funny because earlier they were fighting amongst each other, but they're very similar. He's very passionate because of Momo, because of Aizen's betrayal. Like, he goes in and yes, he doesn't have that fear. He's ready to go, but he is charging with a lot more anger sometimes and strategy. And he's kind of warned at times to, calm down. I think it's Shunsui who also jumps in. And I really love that character's calm demeanor. Even when he's fighting with Aizen at one point or he attacks, he gives his little remarks and just chill and cool. I do also like how Soy Fong can see, Ichigo's not, his head's on it. And she's like, hey, get it together. You're going to have to step in at one point. And she tells him that you're going to miss your opportunity if you don't get your head in the game. And he also thinks about Byakuya and what he told him, back in Hueco Mundo, the captain's not needing Ichigo's assistance. And that kind of gets Ichigo to get himself a little bit together and say, okay, I know that the Gote 13, I know that the visors, I know that they can do this. I just need to pay attention and then do my part. So, she played an active role in that. And again, those are those small moments throughout this, the little phrases or words or just things people say that really have a big impact on everything. But everybody is doing their part to try to create an opening for Ichigo to come in. And, there's this whole strategy that all of them have to fight. And at one point, Aizen thinks that he's got them. Everybody's joining in. And then we see Shinji jump in and he does his little reverse optical illusion thing. And it looks like they beat Aizen. And some of them are celebrating and it looks great until it's not. We have Hitsugaya come in and do this final stab attack on Aizen, or so we think. And as everybody is cheering, Ichigo realizes something's wrong. And he's like, what are y'all cheering about? Pay attention or whatever. And we see that it wasn't Aizen that was stabbed, it was Momo. And Hitsugaya was the one who did it. This is a person that he has been trying to protect, who he's been fighting for, where a lot of his anger comes from. And the look on his face and having Momo say why to him, that was terrible. Apparently, Aizen had been using his Shikai, and he manages to do this attack that pretty much takes out the rest of the Gote 13. And when all hope seems lost, the best fight to have happened. And to think at one point, I questioned whether I should trust him. But y'all, that man, best fight in the last part of this arc. Obviously, Ichigo and Aizen is great and, powerful for its own. My love for Ichigo and obviously the Aizen part of it. But this man had it in the bag. If Wonder-Wise, which shout out to Aizen for having Wonder-Wise set up to counteract whatever Yamamoto's ability is, but man, this dude, and then like the way he pops up in general, and Aizen has his little smart mouth and he cannot get into this man's head. You know how with the Gote 13, he didn't get into everybody's head, but he has a way with his words. But this man's like, listen to me when I tell you, you cannot beat me. I am the captain for a reason. I have been doing this for 1,000 years, I think, and nobody has been able to replace me for a reason. And he just goes, and whether he's hit or not, he's like, that's all you got. I'm so proud of him. He was so cool. And even with the Wonder-Wise situation, he brought out a point that really hit me hard. You know, he fought him, and we learned that Wonder Wise gave up everything about himself. We knew he was strange and he would couldn't really talk and would act weird, but Aizen says that he gave up everything, his ability to talk, act, think, whatever, in order to gain this power. Just everything they did for Aizen is crazy. But you have to wonder now, did he do it for Aizen, you know, after seeing Baragon? But he's lost himself, and we have Yamamoto have to destroy this character. And he says, thankfully, he doesn't look like a kid or doesn't have something where it made it easier for Yamamoto to be able to take him out. But he even says, as Wonder Wise is screaming, that Yamamoto still has this ability to lead in the sense of acknowledging the pain that Wonder Wise is going through, because we see Wonder Wise scream and Yamamoto just calmly is like, well, dang, you allowed this person to have everything taken but still keep their emotions. How cruel are you? And the only one of the biggest issues was as to why he couldn't win was Wonder Wise, and also because his power was going to bounce back on him or something, and he allows it to explode so it doesn't destroy Karakura Town or, you know, make it to where the real Karakura Town is affected. I'm so proud of him, and I was just so impressed. I was amazed as I was seeing this happen, but it really made me feel for Wonder Wise. And I think here we get an answer to my question about why Aizen does this. And I think this is a moment where he says he does these hollows a favor, because otherwise hollows wouldn't even have anything going on because of the position they're in once a person dies. And I'm like, I guess that's true. But also, like, no, you didn't have to do this. You could have still made things better. I don't know. But that's my captain, man. He did that. And then this leads to now Ichigo. Ichigo has to come on and fight. And I'm really feeling for him because I know his head still isn't in the right place, you know? As Ichigo and Aizen are talking, Aizen reveals that the Hogyoko is in his chest. It's in his chest. He also says that all of this was what he wanted, including Ichigo. Like, essentially, he's been directing Ichigo's path the entire time. I have no idea what to make of that, but he basically goes through the timeline of events and was like, how did you know this would happen with Rukia? How did you know this? And trying to make it make sense. It doesn't fully make sense to me. At first, I was like, is this just him trying to do more of his mind games because he's such a manipulative person? But then Aizen is about to reveal something about Ichigo. I do think it's true, because he says that he's always known Ichigo since he was born, and he's about to go into more of that. But then Isshin, Ichigo's dad, jumps in and he's basically like, enough. Don't finish that. And I'm just like, what do you mean? What is happening? But also, you look really cool, sir. As much as I'm frustrated by the fact that we're now not going to get the information I wanted, the story just gets even cooler. Bleach is just a cool story. I don't know what to tell you. It's just so cool. I have to note that it's wonderful that despite Aizen trying to destroy everything and Ichigo realizing his dad is doing a lot more than just being his dad in this moment, and the realization from Aizen and all of that stuff, despite all of that, Ichigo and his dad still have the same kind of banter. Even when he goes to talk to Ichigo alone, he punches him or throws him off the roof or something crazy to talk to him alone. And they're still funny with one another, but his dad tells him, I know you have a lot of questions and want answers. Ichigo stops him and says, look, you didn't tell me for your own reasons, and that's on you, but when you're ready to tell me, tell me. But he says something interesting. He says that if he tries to talk about it now, Ichigo says this, that he doesn't know if he'll disrespect his dad. I can't tell if he just means he doesn't want to question his dad because he trusts that his dad knows what he's doing, or because he would be mad about it. I don't know, but it seems like they're good. It seems like they're great. Maybe not great, but you know, like he just has a good understanding and his dad respects his maturity and all of that. But then we have Ichigo versus Gin and Isshin versus Aizen, which I wasn't expecting, but I love it. It's really difficult watching Ichigo fight Gin because he is not like himself at all. Obviously, he's still trying to figure out Gin. He reads people by their heart and their fight and everything, and he can't read Gin like that. Gin calls him creepy. I don't know. It's funny, but you can't read Gin as a character. Gin also shows Ichigo his sword and how fast it is and how long it can go and all this stuff. And Ichigo's trying to figure it out, but it was a very odd fight. And now that you know more about Gin and his reason for why he was in all of this, you can tell a lot of it was him trying to get Ichigo, in my opinion, to wake up and get stronger, because he was very dismissive and insulting of Ichigo, and he would tell him to just run away or you're not even worth the match and you can't take on Aizen and all of that that. So it seemed like he was trying to get him to snap into place and get himself together. It was hard watching Ichigo like this. It really was. He would dodge and fight, but he was so in his head the entire time and just couldn't focus right. Then things with Aizen just take another crazy turn because as he's fighting Ishin is holding his own, and he even says that it seems like Aizen isn't fighting the same, kind of like he's getting weaker, I guess. And Aizen's like, yeah, that's because the Hogyoku was finally done, and it now is going to do what it's going to do, and it basically adheres to what the person's heart wants. So Aizen wants to, take over and destroy and all of that. So it's going to go, I guess, this is my understanding, by his will, by what his heart wants, which is not good for anybody. But he also says it possesses a will of its own, but I guess its will is what you want. So how is that its own? I'm a little confused by that. And it's so funny because Ichigo pops up and he's asking his dad what's happening, and Ishin's just like, yeah, I don't know. And I'm like saying, because if there is something Aizen can do, it is give a speech and go on and on and on. But what we do know is that whatever final form he's in now is not good, and you can tell he's about to go crazy. But then Kisuke pops up, and boy, am I happy. I love that man. I love how he does his little double him thing where it's not him, but the fighter thinks it's him, the attacker, in this case, Aizen. But what's interesting is there's a moment where Kisuke tells Aizen, it's interesting because you before would have caught this thing whenever Kisuke does something. And the point I'm bringing that up, the reason I'm bringing that up is because I think that is something with all these Espadas and Arrancars that we got out of this last part of the arc. As much as they all want this power for whatever reason it leads a lot of the time to their own demise, or they're not as good. And I guess because it gets to a point where you're not in control anymore. We start seeing that with Aizen. And it's like, yes, you can have all the power in the world, but if you don't know how to control it, what's the point? But for now, Aizen is doing a pretty decent job. And Yoruichi jumps in, which is great. And Kisuke and her are really funny together, again, in the midst of all the craziness. And they're doing all these attacks, and she's great, he's great, Ishin's great, but it's just getting to a point where you can tell they can only do so much with Aizen. I would like to add that in the midst of this, Ron Giku wakes up after being injured herself. You can tell that she's worried about Gin, or at least wants to confront Gin. You don't really know her reasoning, but I just know it's going to end in some kind of heartbreak, and it does. Yeah, so Aizen is fighting these three beasts, and there's a point where it looks like they may trap him, and I can't tell if this is going to be the moment where Ichigo steps in. You never know in this chapter. I can only tell that it's not just yet because of where we're at in the chapters, but they do this attack. Ishin does Getsuga Tensho. While it looks like it's destructive, it's not destructive enough. And one thing I want to point out is while they're waiting to see if Aizen is going to pop up or not, Kisuke and Ishin are mentioning how they can't sense his Reitsu, and Ishin says that only somebody now who is essentially on his level, Aizen's level, will be able to sense that ability, which is insane when you think of what happens later with Ichigo and makes Aizen's anger towards Ichigo whenever he can no longer sense Ichigo's. It makes that so much more powerful. Gin and Ichigo are also still fighting, and this is just where Ichigo just seems, I don't know, really defeated. And he basically says that he's seen Aizen's power and he's scared. And he basically says that if Ichigo doesn't leave, he's just gonna take him out. But then Aizen pops up, and this lets Ichigo sees that his dad and Kisuke and Yoruichi are all down and out. And this is really disheartening because not only is Ichigo seeing his people down, but he calls out to Aizen, and Aizen's face is kind of starting to crack or whatever. He's in this new transformation and everything, and so Gin tells him they need to go, and he basically is kind of looking at Ichigo like he's not even an opponent. He's like, you can just watch all of this get destroyed, Karakura Town, and they go to the real Karakura Town, where Ichigo is still there, feeling kind of hopeless. And I have such a soft spot for Ichigo, and it's difficult because he is just this young kid. He hasn't even trained long enough to be able to do all of this. And I hate that he puts so much on himself, and seeing him possibly give up is difficult. It's hard to watch. But then when Ishin gets up, we see him and he's like, come on, Ichigo, we got to go. And Ichigo's just kind of standing there, and he's like, Ichigo, we have to go. I just am eating that up. I love it. I love his dad. All of these leaders and fighters just going no matter what. And obviously they're adults and have been in this world longer, but still being able to get back up after all of that is just incredible. And I love it. And I love that he's just pushing his son and not babying him, even though I want to baby Ichigo. We're just in such a dire state. We can't. So I love seeing him like that. We really start seeing Aizen transform past Aizen. Like there's nothing there but the power and him just wanting to let that power take over, because as they're going to the real Karakura town, they see this Katatsu thing coming and you're not supposed to mess with that, but Aizen does. He basically destroys it. Well, I guess he lets it hit him, and Gin is like, we shouldn't be doing that, and just it's obviously getting to be a lot, and Aizen's just like, there's no point in trying to reason with things. People do that. It's something that they have to have, and he doesn't want to live like that anymore. So I guess he's just crossing all boundaries. I don't know. The man has lost it. But here we also have another moment I adore with Ichigo and his dad. His dad is still trying to get him to go. And Ichigo, I feel like this is the first time we've seen him say that something is just, it can't happen. He thinks that something is impossible. He tells his dad there's no point. And I'm like, Ichigo. But also, I think he needed to have that moment. I think he needed to actually be honest with himself and how he's feeling. And his dad is just like, why? How do you know? And are you just going to cry about it? It's so good. And Ichigo kind of gets himself back together and he's like, okay, let's do it. And I really do hope in the future we get more of these two getting to fight together, except keep them alive, because these were some great moments. And then his dad takes him and they go into the same little crossover place. And when he realizes what Aizen did and what he destroyed earlier, he's like, we can use this to our advantage. And this is where he wants to take Ichigo to train. Again, not expecting all of this to train in the middle of Aizen about to destroy things, but it's so cool because, again, my understanding of this is not the best, but wherever they're at, time is not the same. So what he can do in that time, it's all these years compared to what would be in real life. So he gets the experience. But either way, his dad wants him to get into the final Getsuga Tensho. This next set of events leads to my favorite moment in Bleach ever. I get teary-eyed just thinking about it. And it doesn't happen till later. But basically, Isshin tells Ichigo that he's going to have to sit and meditate, in a sense. It looks like that's what he's doing, and get his Zanpakuto to tell him how to get to his final Getsuga Tensho. This process is very interesting because it focuses on Ichigo having to face his fear, why he's feeling what he's feeling. His body is going through a lot. His dad is having to use his body to allow them to be able to do this, but he only has so much energy. When Ichigo first gets into this little world that he's in, when he does this stuff, he's underwater and he thinks he can't breathe, and then he's told he can breathe. And we meet, what's his name? Tenza Zangetsu, which I don't think is the same person that we met before. I don't think. Ichigo is telling him, I need to know this information. And the guy's like, I'm not going to tell you. Ichigo's like, well, why? I need it. I need it to save Karakura Town. And he's like, well, your will and my will is not the same thing. What you want and what I want are different. And at first, this made me so mad. And it went from being something that made me angry to something that just made me cry. And oh my gosh, but Ichigo's doing all of this to figure it out, right? And on the side of this, we have this next part is funny, but also it's terrifying. We have Gin and Aizen in the real Karakura town, and Ichigo's friends are waking up. It's so obvious how much they add to the story, so I was happy to see them, but obviously they're going through it. They're waking up, seeing their town, everybody's just passed out, they don't know what's happening, and they're also trying to help each other, go through this town, and I don't know, it made me really enjoy them a lot more, getting to see them on their own. We mostly deal with Tatsuki and Keigo. I think I got their names right. And they're funny, but Tatsuki is always just dealing with a lot. It always seems like there's so much heaviness on her shoulders. And when they approach Aizen and Gin, Oh my gosh, like you can see how much their power is hurting her. And interestingly enough, Keiko's doing pretty well compared to her, but she is still so strong telling him to run. You know, they had their friends with them, but she's still trying to get her friends to leave and go to safety despite the fact that she's in a lot of pain and alone. And I feel so bad for her. And Aizen does not care. He's ready to kill her. But then out of nowhere, Don Kanoji, this character from way in the beginning, comes up to try to save her and the kids. And this character annoyed me so much, but gosh, do I love him. And despite the fact that he cannot do anything, I love his fearlessness and his ability to try to fight for the children watching him who are not watching him. And so it adds some comedic relief. And Aizen, it's his personality, despite how crazy he is so good with this very much animated, well, it's all animated, but you know, like this very theatrical person. And Aizen's like, who are you? And Don is just like, excuse me, I am him, you know, I'm this guy. And Aizen is about to beat him, not even by fighting him. Don is gonna use his little stick, sword, whatever it is. I think it's his stick to try to get Aizen. And Aizen is like, if you touch me, you'll die, which we saw somebody when they got next to him outside of somebody like Keigo, Tatsuki, despite them being able to kind of stand by him, most people just explode. And he's about to die because of his actions. And then our girl Rangiku pops up, and this is where things are slowly about to get sadder and sadder. There's still a lot of funny moments. For example, they all get to run away when she pops up, and Dawn is still trying to stay and help. She keeps telling him to go away when she throws a can at him. So it's all really funny. But Gin takes Rangiku, and I knew he didn't do anything to her, like kill her. She is questioning him and like, you know, why are you doing this? Why did you go to that side? In these two, it's just tragic all around. And it's about to get even more tragic. And he basically tells her that she's interfering. He does not answer her questions. And he proceeds to attack her, kill her. And I know that's not what's going to happen. And my heart's already breaking because the energy is shifting. The energy is getting different, especially between Aizen and Gin. And on top of this, we have Ichigo still trying to get the information that he needs. And this is where we see Ichigo find out what's stopping him, and it's his fear when he sees that the hollowified or the hollow Ichigo coming out. And Ichigo thought that he left. I don't know why he thought he was gone, because the guy did say that he would come back, so I'm not sure why Ichigo thought that. But the inner hollow and Tenza Zangetsu, they combine, they turn into one, and it's all really cool. And Ichigo sees that they look different, or the mask looks different, and they, I guess, let him know that that's what happened when he fought Ukiura. And he says that Ichigo will be fighting both of them together, and that they are his power. It's a lot of inner stuff going on here, but I love it. And this is where my heart breaks. I hate this. I feel like this is just so unfair. I don't know. Okay, so Gin is at a point where he lets us know that he has been against Aizen the whole time. Aizen asks him after he comes back from Rangiku if he killed her or what he did, and he says that he killed her. And Aizen's surprised that Gin would do it the way that he did it. And Gin tells Aizen that he's a snake. And right then I know, oh, he's about to attack him. And he does. He stabs Aizen, and he lets him know that his sword, he didn't tell him everything about his sword and that there's poison in it. And Aizen lets Gin know that he knew that Gin was after him, and he wanted to see, you know, what Gin's moves were going to be. And there's one moment where Gin tells Aizen, after he puts the poison in him, and he tells him that he's going to die, that Aizen's going to die with the hole in his chest like he always wanted. And I thought that was such an interesting line. I guess he means that he didn't want a heart. He just wanted to have power, but not actually care about people. And if so, that's really sad. And the saddest part about all of this is that as we go through his past, Gin's past, we realize that he was always doing this for Rangiku. This is really heartbreaking, and I don't know why. This is just very difficult for me to process. Like, this man dedicated his life to dealing with this crazy man and risking his life for her. And it's from a kid. We see him when he first saw Aizen with the Hogyoku, and with his people, Aizen's people. And then we see this shot of Rangiku. It looks like she was injured or harmed, and him wanting to always protect her. And I can't tell if it's implied that Aizen's people are the ones who did that to her, but the goal was to protect her. And it looks like he does it, right? He gets the Hogyoku, even though I knew that couldn't be the end of it, but he gets it. But Aizen lets us know that at this point it belongs to him. And when Gin tries to hold on to it, Aizen still gets it. And then Aizen just cuts through Gin's body. And Rangiku, she realizes that Gin didn't kill her, and she sees what's happening, and it's just devastating. Aizen also, while he's killing Gin, talks about all the souls he took. Just terrible conversation. And, that Kisuke didn't know everything about the Hogyoku, and just talking about how now he has everything he needs and figured out how to get what he needs out of it. And I believe he said that he gave Kisuke's Hogyoku to his Hogyoku. And then we just see Gin thinking about when they were kids, him and Rangiku telling her that he's gonna protect her and that she won't have to cry anymore. Oh my gosh. And then we see her just crying and screaming and in present time. And just to make it worse, he's sitting there saying he couldn't do it. Oh my gosh. I don't want to talk about this. I really don't. He also says he couldn't get back what she lost or something like that, and have to see what he means by that. I don't know if he means just the loss of a childhood because of a lot of the stuff she went through. I'm not sure, or because Aizen was involved. But then he also says he feels good that he got to tell her he was sorry. I didn't think he was actually gonna die though. And Rangiku is just holding Gin, and how much for sure now they both care about each other, and I want to scream. I'm like, this is just unfair. This is so unfair. It feels so hopeless. And as Aizen's going up to them, probably about to attack her, it's so painful. And then we see Ichigo. And even though I said Yamamoto's fight was the best one to me, this one just hits on such a crazy emotional level that I can't even describe it, but it gets wonderful. And then, like I said, my favorite moment in Bleach is about to happen, but seeing him come and seeing his whole different demeanor and that he's ready, it feels great. This little sequence right before Aizen and Ichigo finally fight is just beautiful. Ichigo looks incredible. He thanks his dad for his dad putting so much into himself and everything he's done to get Ichigo to this point. Ichigo looks and he sees Rangiku and Gin and Gin's position, and Gin looks at Ichigo and he can see in his eyes, he's like, okay, you're here. He compared how he looked before until now, and it's like he's ready, and it looks like he is going to die. And it's painful, but there's such a peace about this, and everything that we've gone through to get to this point, you just reflect on it in these final moments before the final fight. It's great. The energy of it is great. And Ichigo sensing that his sisters are okay and seeing his friends, and it's so hilarious. There's that one Soul Society member, and Ichigo can't remember his name, and he says the wrong name, and I just laughed. Everything about this was perfect. And Aizen's just going at it, right? He thinks he's using that mouth. He's so arrogant and saying that he can't sense Ichigo's Ryutsu, which is going to come up in such a cool way later. But he's like, you didn't do anything. You didn't do whatever. And Ichigo just grabs his dude and shoves him to a whole nother location so they don't hurt anybody else or destroy anybody in the process. And he's like, let's go. That is so cool. Ichigo is like, I'm back and I'm better than ever, and you're about to go. And I love it. And Aizen shuts up for a second, as he should, and it's great. And I'm ready. I am ready. Aizen realizes that Ichigo, it looks like he's traded his Reitsu, that word I'll never get right, but he traded that for strength. I don't know if that was actually proven. I guess it was, but either way, Ichigo's just on another level, so it doesn't really matter. And Ichigo from the start is just on it. When Aizen tries to attack, Ichigo can just avoid it in the smoothest, fastest way, and he's tripping Aizen up. Aizen cannot figure out what's actually happening with Ichigo. And what I really love that's shown about Aizen in this moment is that Aizen is typically calm, cool, and collected. Whether it was an act or not, he lived that. That's what he showed. And to see him constantly amp up his aggression, his frustration, he loses that whole demeanor because he's losing himself. He's no longer in control. Despite how much he thinks he's in control, he's not. And you realize just how I don't know what the word is. He's always made it seem like he was so strong, but he needed so much to be that. He sacrificed so much. He sacrificed so many people. And without that, he's just this little raging, angry man. Seeing this person who we've seen a certain way the entire time we've had to deal with him, despite how much he's had to hide and sneak and manipulate, just let all this out, really, to me, adds to what Ichigo saw in him by the end of this, the loneliness. He did all of this to prove something, find something, and to watch it all just evaporate. He just could not let that happen, and he couldn't believe it was happening. To see everything that he's worked for start to disappear, as he's seeing all of this lead to possibly nothing, I wonder if he was just like, what was the point, you know? And Ichigo talks to that a little bit later, but the fight itself, Ichigo is doing great. Aizen does get in his hits, but Ichigo is just going at him, and then Aizen, you know, he's like, my Hogyoko won't allow me to lose, and he tries to hit at Ichigo again, and he does destroy Ichigo's arm, but Ichigo's like, okay, is that all you got? And then this next part just hits me so hard. Ichigo is about to do his final Getsuga Tensho, and we go back to how he was actually able to achieve this. And this is where I say my favorite part of Bleach happens. We see him fighting his two merged powers, and Ichigo keeps getting, you know, knocked down, and Tenza Zangetsu's like, you're not gonna quit, and Ichigo's like, no. And he's trying to figure out what to do, and it comes down to him realizing that he has to let them get him, stab him. And they do, but it doesn't hurt because it's all him, right? And this is the part that is my favorite part in Bleach. He sees Tenza Zangetsu crying, and Ichigo had sensed sadness in the blade earlier, and he was wondering, what's wrong? Why are you crying? And Tenza Zangetsu says that his whole point was to protect Ichigo, and how when he told Ichigo that they had two different wills, that Ichigo's will was not his was always to protect Ichigo. Oh my gosh, how beautiful, right? How powerful. I love what this story represents. I love how it's so much more than fighting and transforming, and I could talk about that forever. In the midst of this, though, when we're going back to how Ichigo gets this ability, we learn that when he gets this, something's going to happen, which we don't learn till a little later, and it's a permanent something. But once this is all revealed, we see Ichigo do this final blow to Aizen. And when we're back in the present, and when we come back to the present, Ichigo looks different, right? And Ichigo says that in order to get to this final Getsuga Tensho, he has to turn into Getsuga. And not only that, by doing this, he loses all of his powers. He no longer has these Shinigami abilities. And I was shocked. And the final part in the name is literal. And so Ichigo is giving it all up for this. And we see Tenza Zangetsu tell him bye. And what I love about this is that Aizen realizes that the reason he can't sense Ichigo's Reitsu is because Ichigo is now above him in power. And we go back to Isshin, his dad, saying that when he couldn't sense Aizen, he said that only somebody on the same level as Aizen would be able to sense it. So that means Ichigo is now above Aizen, and Aizen loses it. Now, even though Ichigo did this awesome move, Aizen is still alive. And I'm just like, well, what the heck? I'm still a little frustrated just because Ichigo sacrificed his powers, you know, but it's all teamwork. It's all teamwork because we see Kisuke come out, and Kisuke already had a plan of sealing Aizen and implanted in him what he needed to, and knew at the perfect time Aizen was weak that it would work, and he had to do it before the Hogyoku had finalized, and just all this crazy stuff that only a genius like him could figure out. Aizen is sealed, and apparently he's immortal, which I never picked up on. Maybe I did, but he's sealed, and they did it. They did it. It's a weird feeling though, right? There's so much that happened. Like, I'm still upset about Gin, right? And Ichigo having to give up his powers, but they did it. I think it's really poetic almost that Kisuke was the one who got to finish it off, because his Hogyoku was a big part, or I guess the part of how Aizen got to do all of this. And I think also their final conversation was very interesting and telling, and it made me think. I'm really proud proud of where Kisuke has ended up, because Aizen is basically, still going on being insulting at times and saying, you're so smart. I don't know how you could let that thing or it control you, essentially. And it looks like he's referring to the Soul King, which I guess is like the god. And Kisuke says, oh, you must have saw him. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And there's so much I'm sure that's going to come with that. But Kisuke says that without the Soul King, then the Soul Society wouldn't be here. And this is interesting because I'll be very intrigued if Aizen was onto something. Not like Aizen would have been doing it for the right reasons, right? But I wonder if the Soul King will come back to haunt them in some way, or if it's just like the god and Aizen just wanted to be above that, Kisuke was very, not kind to Aizen, but not mean to him. And I wonder if a part of him knew that Aizen just really wanted Kisuke to get it. And Kisuke I think was saying, I do get what you're saying, but I, at the same time, know the benefit of the Soul King, Ugh, there's so much here. There's so much here. But yeah, this journey has been insane. Aizen has planned this for so long, and so many people have gone through it and had to sacrifice, and it's over. It's over. But there's a lot of feelings that come with that, right? And we see how it affects Ichigo and some of the others as we now rebuild. Now that Aizen is sealed, we see that Hiyori is alive, but it's going to kind of be up to her, I guess, to fight to live and make it. But I'm glad that she's okay. What I don't think we ever got note of is if Komamura is okay. I don't think they brought him up. I don't think. But we go through a lot of people. Kenpachi is okay. Byakuya is okay. And we see that they beat Yami. And this part, oh, I can't stand Yami. I cannot. But there's a hollow dog. I don't know if the hollow dog has always been there. But this dog goes to Yami as it looks like Yami's dying. And he's kind of there for what I guess is going to be Yami's last breath. And Yami doesn't really understand why he's there, which shows that Yami maybe never thought that anybody actually cared about him. And that hit. I don't like the character, but that was beautiful to know that somebody was still there for him, despite how terrible he was, and despite the fact that he didn't really understand love and care. It was nice to see. I thought that was really powerful. I also love Shinji and Unohana because she's the one who tells him about Hiyori, and he thanks her, and she says, why are you thanking me? Like, we're a team. The differences they've had, to see them come together like that is great. And then I think it's Shinji that says, we're not a team. And then he says, that's what Hiyori would say. Love it, love it, love it. And we get to Kisuke and Ichigo talking, and Ichigo just seems not happy, not upset, just like he doesn't know how to feel. And we learn that Kisuke allows his friends to keep their memories this time around, and Ichigo's happy about that. And I think it's going to be good for him to be able to really have people to relate to him, especially since now he doesn't have his powers and he won't be around the same people, at least for now. We never know what'll happen in this world, but that's good. But Kisuke wants to know what's wrong with Ichigo, though, because, he did everything he could and led them to victory. And despite all of this, he's thinking about Aizen. Ichigo is thinking about Aizen. He doesn't know if the Hogyoku actually no longer saw Aizen as his master anymore, or if Aizen somehow, I guess, gave up in a sense. Or maybe a better way to say this is that Aizen's heart changed because the Hogyoku does what the heart wants. And so if Aizen no longer wanted what he previously wanted, then that's why this happened. And Ichigo said that he felt a lot of loneliness in Aizen's sword, and that perhaps Aizen was looking for somebody who thought the way that he thought. And that, I hate to say it, is so sad. It's sad for a couple of reasons, because I think if Aizen would have tried harder, maybe he would have. But it's also sad because maybe he wouldn't have. And if people don't think like you, how do you? I'm not agreeing with it, right? But I'm just playing devil's advocate. It could feel like maybe it doesn't matter if you feel like you don't belong anyway. I don't know. But it seems like if Aizen would have paused more, kind of like a lot of these people in his group, then maybe they would have felt less alone and possibly find a team that maybe didn't get them all the crazy goals they wanted, but have some kind of understanding and get somewhere in some capacity that would make everybody happy. I don't know. But I like that Ichigo paused and thought about that, because it made me pause and think. And in general, that's how I've been feeling about a lot of these characters on Aizen's team. So that was something. And again, it's hard to feel for Aizen, but I do understand him more, which is crazy. because he's crazy. But yeah, and I just love Ichigo. And it also makes me think of Kisuke. And that's what I meant by earlier when I think maybe Kisuke felt that way too, is he was dealing with Aizen and that's why he was always decent around him or able to just put up with him. I don't know. But yeah, it's done. And Ichigo's friends come up to him, Orihime and Chad and Ori. I still call him Chad. And Rukia. And it's so good to see them. And Orihime's crying. It's great. But then Ichigo collapses, and that is going to lead to us knowing that he has and will be losing his powers. And then finally, we get to the last chapter of such chaotic, wonderful journey. We see that Aizen is sentenced. I don't know why I'm laughing. He's sentenced, and through the very end of this, he's still sarcastic, like telling them that I can't believe that people like you are sentencing me, and they give him more years. I just find it hilarious. But I don't know. I feel like Aizen is gonna come back into play somehow. I don't know, because I also question this Soul King and if that's gonna turn into anything. Also, I was shocked that Uryu's dad never popped up, and I wonder if there's gonna still be some kind of battle between the Quincy's, because he didn't come and fight. I thought that was interesting. You know, will there be a battle with the Quincy's, the Soul Society, the Gote 13? I don't know. Yeah, we may need Aizen, which would be crazy. I don't know, but they got that man locked up. Will he turn bad, or will Aizen ever escape? I don't think so. I think what Ichigo said is supposed to let us know that he's done with that particular journey. Aizen is, but we'll see. But we see Hitsugaya, and he's training. He's training hard. After what happened with Momo, I think we're going to see a different side of him. Momo is being treated because she clearly had some really bad injuries. We see when Rangiku is trying to go check up on her. Speaking of her, dang, there's a moment where it's, she's observing everybody moving on. I think we're a month out. I don't know if this is a month out or when we see Ichigo, it's a month out, but some time has passed and she says that, and I just feel for her. I feel for her and Gin. This will never sit right with me. It just hurts. It just hurts. I don't know. But it is beautiful when she says that he didn't leave her anything to remember him by, and she said she hates that about him, but that she also realizes he probably did that because he knew that it would be hard for her to move on, and she loves that about him. It's great. That was beautiful. It helped because I just feel like poor Gin just really didn't get to live. But at the same time, that's what he wanted to do with his life and protect her, but the two of them together not getting to have time, and the fact that he's actually gone, I'll never be okay with it, but I'm gonna try to be. Yamamoto is okay, our captain, and I'm so happy. What a boss, right? And I love how after everything he gets on to them about messing up their attire, and they're just they're just making jokes about it, and the captains, it's great. But I love him. I love them. It's funny. It's wonderful. And I love our Soul Society, which is crazy because I was not saying that at first, but I do. And finally, Ichigo. I want to mention our last moments with Ichigo in this part. He's with his friends and, he's getting himself back together. And we have his final moments with Rukia, at least for now. And we see that he's slowly losing his powers. He can't sense her as much. And he says he's okay, but we know it probably hits him. And their conversation just gets to me because it started with these two, when it comes to this part of it, the powers and all of that. And to see her say that he may not be able to sense her, but she'll be able to see him and all of that. And I don't know, it's hard because this wasn't what I was expecting. And these two as friends, I love it. I love it. And I love Ichigo being a part of all of this. But I don't know, I'm also happy to see him, even if it's not forever, because I'm sure he'll get powers some way, but maybe not. But I want to see him get to be a kid for a little bit. He's gone through so much. But when they go outside to talk about all of this, he tells her to let everybody know that he says bye. And they say bye. And we're on to a literal new chapter, but also this chapter for Ichigo. And gosh, this story has a way of just feeling, I've said this before, but so realistic, because that is life. It's not just we win and everything's happy. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen because of this. I don't even know everybody who survived or did not survive yet. I really need to know about Komamura because maybe I missed it, but I don't see where they mentioned him, and then just how everybody's doing mentally, physically. There's a lot of characters, how Hisagi's going to do. Like, I want to know how all this, not the main characters are going to be. And Ichigo in and of himself, or Orihime, how is she going to process with everything she went through? Because we know this was hard on her and she cared about Ukiura and a lot of those Arrancars, and I don't know, but I'm so proud of everybody. That's it for the Arrancar arc. I'm so impressed and sad and happy, and I love Bleach. I can't wait to see what happens next. I think I'll stick with the manga, at least until the parts that you guys told me to switch to the anime. This was great. There's a lot to process. I'm still processing a lot, but I'm happy that I continued reading. I couldn't ask for a better conclusion for this arc. Nervous about the future for everybody, but excited, you know? What did you guys think of this? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you feel none of that? Let's talk about it all because I thought it was phenomenal. Okay, well, unfortunately, this video has come to an end, but of course, I'll see you all in my next video. Until we meet again, go read the next arc for Bleach because we'll be discussing it soon. Bye, guys.